Good evening and welcome to another edition of Film Nut. I'm your host, Jeff Schubert. Glad you can join us. Well, for those of you just tuning in, we showed a very funny, very appropriate 3-minute short from YouTube about a first AD and a first AD at home. Brian, we're going to make it possible so people watching this in the archives are going to be able to see that, right?
Yeah, it'll be there for you archivers there.
Oh, good deal. A lot of fun. You got to check that out. So a couple of things before we get to tonight's show. A couple of weeks ago, we had Stephen Poster, great DP, president of IATSC Local 600, on talking about being a director of photography, and I promised him I would watch Southland Tales and report back to you when I did. I watched it. Great movie, very funny, great dialogue. Stephen did an amazing job shooting it. Highly recommend you watching out there if you're a fan of Donnie Darko, or even if you're not, maybe give it a try. Kind of satirizing issues of the day, you know, in terms of terror and war and all that kind of thing, and people on both sides of the issues on how to react to that, kind of poking fun and satirizing everyone. Great cast, John Lovitz, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Dwayne Johnson, great cast, so check that out. Another thing I want to follow up on is on June 4th, we are going to be having the president of the WGA West on, Patrick Verone, and we're going to be talking about net neutrality, a subject I brought up very briefly a couple of weeks ago, and I'll be brief with it again tonight. But basically, big businesses are going to be trying to make it so traffic on the internet gets directed more easily to them and more difficult to independent sites like the Stream.tv. So it's an issue for us to be aware of, to learn about. Certainly, I don't want to talk about something I haven't researched yet, which I will be doing over the next few weeks for our guest. But I'm very much looking forward to that show. And net neutrality, if you don't know anything about it, Google it, go to YouTube, write that in, learn about it, and then when we have Patrick on for the show, everyone can ask him some great questions. We can see where we're at. What do you think about net neutrality, Brian?
Well, net neutrality is good, so what might happen is bad. So that's why people should know about net neutrality, so that you can access little guys like us without having to worry about anything.
Yeah, so net neutrality means that you can get to this site again as fast as you could any other big site. So enough about that for now. But
and wait until we're one of the big sites,
right.
and then net neutrality screw them.
That's right. There you go. So mark your calendars June 4th for that. Well, tonight we're going to get to our guest. He is a first assistant director. He is also second AD as well. He has worked on such films as Kill Bill 1 and 2, Jackie Brown, Crank 1, and now he's actually working on Crank 2. We're so happy that he came from the set today to talk to us. Henry Poole and a lot of other great films. Brian's dad, if you're watching this, we're going to confirm for you once and for all that the first AD does, in fact, do not get the coffee, but a hell of a lot more than that. So, ladies and gentlemen, William Paul Clark.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks so much for coming by. And again, coming right from the set, that's awesome.
Yeah, no. And had I known, I would have brought a cup of coffee.
There you go. we would have really messed with Brian and screwed with his dad if we did that, right?
I'm going to mail one to him.
You're going to mail one to him?
I'm going to find out where Brian's dad lives, and I'm going to send him a cup of coffee.
There you go.
And it's going to be great coffee.
It's going to be great coffee. The best he's ever had.
Well, that's all we serve.
That's right. So, if we could get serious for a moment. First AD, you're not getting coffee on a regular basis. What are you doing?
Well, we first, we take the script, we break it down, we give it the scene numbers, we break it down to all the elements, the actors, the locations, the sets, the property, the special effects, the special equipment, all of the elements that are required within the set, and we put it into a shooting schedule. Then we take all these elements and factor it into how to schedule the film, how to make it happen. And once that process is over, which takes some time depending upon the length of the film, then we implement it on the set. So, we have to field general, if you will, how that is organized. We have to set the call time, make sure the director has the time he needs with the actors before the call, if necessary. Make sure the director of photography and his crew has the time that they need to rig whatever sets need to be rigged. Make sure the art department is prepared. And then we show up and trash it.
Field general, I like that. That should be what your new title is. I think that's much more appropriate. Do you work with the line producer during pre-production in terms of the budget and making things work and figuring out how many days this can be done?
In the sense of the line producer will tell me we can't afford that.
Okay.
And
that's pretty much what the line producer does with everyone, right?
and so then we have to find solutions.
Right.
And that's one of the best parts of this whole thing, that when you do that and you find you have to find a creative solution. So often the creative solutions have turned out to be better than the original idea. That's really one of the thrills of my job, is when you have to really examine, you have to sit down with the director, you have to sit down with the director of photography and the producers, and sometimes the actors and the production designer, and you say, look, this is a problem. This is something we can't do because of a location. Right. This is something we have a problem doing because of an actor's schedule. This is something we have a problem doing because it's just too gosh darn expensive.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking of when I brought up line producer. You schedule it out to be a 36-day shoot, and the line producer says we can only afford 33.
Mm-hmm. Right. We have to pick and choose where we're gonna trim the fat, if you will. And is trimming the fat going to be with content? I certainly hope not, but sometimes it's required. Or is it going to be with the style with which we're going to approach it?
Okay. Well, we've got a very interesting first instant message coming in from Dga Goddess, and his or her question is, what was dress day like on the set of Jackie Brown? What did you wear, and did Rick Stribling dress like Jackie every week?
Well, I think Rick looks a lot like Jackie in general, and he's very attractive, as Jackie
Sure.
Brown is. No, I think he only wore the store suit the one day, dress day, and dress day on Jackie Brown was somewhat scary. I didn't really participate. I just wore gay pants.
Did you? There you go.
So I treat it more as gay pants day.
Gay pants day.
Than
Is that a
dress
regular
day.
on all of your films, or just for Jackie Brown?
Yeah, I just can't handle the breeze.
Right. I might have to put that line in a movie. So I like that. So when you're making a schedule, maybe this is more advice for indie filmmakers. Are there any generic rules to factor into consideration, like schedule, exteriors before interiors because of weather considerations, shoot out children first, things like that?
Well, every circumstance is different. So, I mean, to say that there's generic rules, not really. And there's not really generic rules. You want to have a cover set, obviously. But again, that's expensive. You have to have the set dressed, and it's got to be there up and standing all the time. So, you may want to parcel out your cover sets. For this week, the cover set's going to be this, and then for the next week, the cover set's
And when you say
gonna be
cover
this.
set, you mean?
Well, your concern was weather. You suggested,
Sure.
you wanted
Sure.
to take care of your exteriors first. Right. In theory, that's a generic way of looking at it. But, there are more issues that have to be addressed. Script continuity. The concept, you crash in a car and you're going to drive it again. If you crash the car, you got to crash the car before you're going to drive it again. That's just normal things that you have to look at. There's so many elements that go into it that to say anything is generic would be just irresponsible.
Okay, fair enough. Might you say, given the specifics of an individual project, shoot the most challenging or difficult things to where you leave yourself a margin of error to where there's more time to make up for it later if you have to? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
question?
it does. It does. When I schedule, I always try to make the first day. Maybe this is generic, but for personally me, I always try to make the first day a day that is not too heavy, a day that will involve the lead character and the director more than anything else, and hopefully no other characters unless there's two leads, so they can really just get a feel for each other on that first day because they're going to be spending a lot of time together. And then I always like to leave a last day that is also quite light for these types of things, so we can have a separate insert crew picking up all the little shots that were required throughout, or we can say and it turns out to fill up. You always fill the space that you have. It's amazing how that happens.
Yeah. Hey, it's Tom wants to ask you, if you can reveal it, how is Crank 2 happening? As in, didn't Cheb Chelios die?
Well, no. No, I mean, he just fell out of a helicopter.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can reveal
That's
that.
right.
We haven't really discussed that. I'll tell you, it's a wild, wild ride. It really makes Crank look like Steel Magnolias or something like that. This is nutty. He's scraped up off the street, and they want, basically what they want to do is his heart is so strong and his body is so strong that they want to harvest him. So they keep him alive.
There you go.
They take his heart and keep him alive.
Wow.
And so now he has to find a different way to stay alive. In the last one, it was adrenaline. Now it's electricity.
Yeah, I'll never forget that sex scene to stay alive. That was kind of
That's
fun.
what we did today, as a matter of fact. We have the sex scene today, the lead up to it at Hollywood Park.
Look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it's on the racetrack. It's going to be great.
There you go. So another thought I had when you just mentioned a minute ago about you always fill up the day. Do you try when possible, especially early on in a shoot, to get ahead if possible? Because once you get ahead, you'll make use of that time?
Yeah, I mean, ideally you schedule the picture correctly.
Right.
So you're not getting ahead and you're not falling behind. You have the time that you need for each of the things. It's always great to get ahead. It's rarely good to get behind. But you try to get ahead only in the sense, a great thing to do is if you can keep your shooting day to 10 hours, every line producer is going to budget for a 12-hour day. So if you have a 30-day schedule and you keep your shooting day for 10 hours, if your actors are available, you can get 2-3 more days of shooting. And that is a great perspective. On the way of the gun, we were able to accomplish that. We just kept our days reasonable, and we were able to add more days. And all the actors, were so into the movie on that one that we just added days, and we're able to, extend the shootout at the end at the Bordello.
Great.
Yeah,
88.
I agree.
88 Humiliation 88 would like to ask, with regard to sex scenes, do you do anything special with the crew to make people more comfortable?
Well, you try to keep the crew out, really.
There you go. Close that set.
Yeah, and I like to hire, partly, there's other reasons, but I always like to hire a female second AD, just in case if you have a woman who is in this, an actress who's in the scene that is feeling apprehensive at all, I leave. I don't want to say I don't want to be there, but no, I don't need to be there. I don't need to be there. I can run the set just as fine without being on it as I can with standing right in the middle of it. So you try to get everybody out of there. You need a cameraman, you need a boom man, and you need a director, and you need somebody to pull focus. Other than that, you don't really need anything else to finish the task.
Website guy would like to ask, can you explain grace?
Sure, it's something you say before dinner.
There you go.
Grace is 12 minutes on a union film. If you're in the middle of a sequence or something that you want to complete, you can take 12 minutes to complete that sequence. There's also an extension, which is 30 minutes, which you can use if you don't move the camera, just to work a little longer.
That's right. There you go. Rambo, the last Rambo movie that was just in theaters, was something you worked on?
Yeah, I saw it. It was great.
It was good deal.
Yeah.
How complicated is that, working on a movie that's shot in multiple countries and so many things going on?
The fact that it's in different countries is fun, really. Rambo's not really a great example because most of that we shot in Thailand. Kill Bill's a better example because that was indeed China, Japan, United States, and Mexico. So there's a lot of scouting that goes on. There's a lot of traveling, and there was a lot of separate crews in that. A lot of delivering of information that had to get via internet and sometimes personal courier. Sometimes people just had to come with pictures, and we'd have to have meetings. So there's a lot of really trust and communication that has to happen with that. But then also in between each location, you'll take a week or two to assimilate. So it just makes things busy. Just makes things busy and bigger, and it's great. I mean, it's all great. Traveling is one of the best and worst things of this business. Being away from family and friends for so long really takes its toll. But my daughter Josephine is 6 years old, has already been to China, Mexico, Canada, New Orleans before and after, France. I mean, she's been around the world, and it's an opportunity most children don't get.
What's your working relationship like with Quentin Tarantino? You've worked with him now on 4 movies, 3 of which as a first AD and 1 as a second, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was king of the PAs on Pulp Fiction.
There you go.
It's great.
Right.
It was an additional second. He's a great guy to work with. I mean, he's just. First off, there's nobody who knows more about knows more about movies that I've met. He's a walking encyclopedia when it comes to movies. As a matter of fact, something we did with the slate, because on Kill Bill we often would get into double letters, AS, 117 AS, instead of 117 Apple Baker Charlie. He required that they all be names of directors. I couldn't participate. There's a couple of other things I'm thinking about, but we wouldn't slate unless somebody had a director that was the initial AS.
Right.
He always had it.
Right.
He always had one. He always had one in his back pocket.
And have you noticed his evolution as a director from Pulp to, let's say, the second Kill Bill?
Well, he's a storyteller, is really what it is. He creates these stories and then he tells them on film. And and he uses, and he'll be the first to admit it, everything that he's watched and saw and learned and puts it in hodgepodge together to really create his own style. The only thing that has really changed from that I've seen from Pulp Fiction is now he wants to push the limits. He wants to create new things, wants to try new ideas. And he also, and I haven't spoken to him in quite some time now because we haven't made a movie. Kill Bill was a few years back. But he also says, now he works to satisfy his muse. He works because he loves it. God bless him.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now, separate from him, how would you describe in general the ideal relationship between director and first AD?
The ideal relationship?
Ideal, the best.
Well, I would love us to be lovers.
That's right.
But, aside from that...
Gay Pants Day, right?
Well, who's assuming that it's a man?
That's true. That's true.
Gee whiz, Jeff. Don't be offended. He apologizes.
I wasn't passing that making judgments.
Just communicative. Really, that's the most, if I'm able to communicate problems to a director with an understanding that I'm solving them, that's great. If I'm able to listen to what the director needs to accomplish, wants to accomplish, and I can help him solve the problem or her solve the problem, that's wonderful. I mean, that is really the essence. And the director of photography. I mean, it's really, on the set, it's really a triumphant.
Absolutely.
There's a 3-man and woman leadership battle that's forging forward through every obstacle that you can think of, and it's a thrill.
Yeah, I call like the director's the coach, the DP is the offensive coordinator, and the first AD I call the defensive coordinator, using the football coaching system.
In a sense, yeah. If for a sports fan,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would say that's makes some sense.
Cool. Made some sense. Jade Zagatis would like to ask, what was your shooting schedule like during Kill Bill while you were in Beijing? How much partying did you guys get to do?
We didn't party at all.
I believe that.
Good. We had fun. China's emerging. China is really an emerging, and they were building it up for these Olympics that, I'm hoping everybody still goes to. you know, or not. You know, I would prefer they stop with whatever's going on in Tibet, but it is the Olympics. It's fun and games. Let's try to have some fun and games. So Kill Bill was in China really an incredible experience. Just the way the Chinese make films is different, and you know, if it being a former communist country, there's still many people who are working at the Beijing film studios who live there. You know, because that's what you do. You work for a government. You work for the government, and you happen to be making films for the government. So you live at the film studio. So it was a different experience.
But speaking of schedule, was there like ever a time where you had to go up to Quentin and be like, Quentin, we're getting a little behind?
Not so much on Kill Bill. Kill Bill was a unique experience, but certainly on Jackie Brown, you know, certainly. And, you know, even on Kill Bill, there are times, you know, we don't want to come back here tomorrow, do we? You know, no, let's get out of here. I want to finish this. Let's go. You know, I'm with you. I understand. So because he likes to chat. He's a chatter. So, you know, I'm like, dude, come on, let's go, pal. What do you say? Okay.
So that brings up another point. You're responsible to the producer as well as the director, right? So you have to balance that relationship?
Yes.
How does that work for you?
You know, it works well. We're all in it together. We're all, you know, fighting for the same cause. We all want to get the picture made and made well, you know, so...
But your responsibility to the producer would be to what? To inform him or her that you're on schedule and that things are going smoothly?
Yeah, you basically, you know, have all their answers. If they're there and they want to know something, they're the producer, so you would answer their questions. Are we going to make it? Yes. Is there a problem? No.
Right.
So
and you give them that no answer whether there's an actual problem or not, right?
Absolutely not. No. If there's a problem, I go to them.
Right.
You know, because often they can help.
And what would be an example of some problems you would go to them with?
You know, where this is the 5th day in a row that this individual has taken 3.5 hours in makeup. The makeup people say it should take 2. The wardrobe people say they didn't even get to see him yet. You know, it's time. I need some help here. You know, or you know, in pre-production availability, cast availability. You know, I don't know how to make that work with this person. Well, maybe we can talk this. There's you know, every issue. Right. Every issue is a producer's issue. And
every issue on set is then, I guess, becomes your issue, and you're the liaison to the producer to make it better if it gets that far.
Yeah. To help the director.
Right. Okay.
To help the director if it gets that far, if the producer's help is required.
Okay. Mosh DUP4 would like to ask, main points of advice for indie filmmakers that forego having a first AD, I'm assuming because their budget can't afford it.
You just fake it. I mean, you it's hard enough to direct a picture with somebody who's thinking about all of the normal stuff that goes on. So if you're gonna do it without, just, you know, maybe cocaine, you know, or I don't know, Vivarin. Do they still make that? That's what I used in college. Right. You're not going to sleep much, and you need sleep in order. That's what's important about, you know, when you make a movie. I found anyway, as with any job, you can't panic, you can't be not rested, you can't, you know, party all night like, you know, this young guy over here on his independent features. I mean, you got to be able to think with a clear head, because you don't know what problems are always going to come up. I know there was one question you had mentioned, what's the difference between the first movie and the movies now? The first movie, I thought I knew a lot more. Now I know a lot less.
There you go. Well, I think also nowadays you can find someone who's going to work on your film, right? There's all kinds of websites where you can advertise and get someone to be the first AD, but you yourself, who might be hiring that first AD, you know what a good first is supposed to do. So when you're interviewing these people, hopefully you find someone who's competent to do that. and you don't run into trouble later once you're on set. Is there good software that you use to break down scripts into schedule?
Well, there really only seems to be one. They used to have a competitor, but Movie Magic Scheduling seems to be the only one that's really there now. Ever since Entertainment Partners purchased it, I don't know of any competition that they have really. I've been using it a long time. I haven't seen one of those big strip boards in eons, it feels like, but it's largely Movie Magic Scheduling. And one other thing I want to say for somebody who's trying to make a film that and they can't afford a first AD, something they really should consider is, if you can't afford a first AD, you're probably not going to have a first AD. You're probably not going to find somebody who knows what a first AD does. So you have to have somebody who embraces your vision. What we do is support the director, and that is so important. So when trying to find somebody to help you through that, they have to try to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish. Without that, they're just going to be a deer in the woods.
Well said. Ms. Cricket Lee would like to ask, foreign filmmakers prefer to have real sex instead of simulating it in order to maintain a realness to it.
I agree with Cricket.
You agree with Cricket? And I'm thinking I need to be doing more foreign films. What are your thoughts, and not counting the fellatio scene from Brown Bunny, do you think that the U.S. will ever follow suit, or are we just too uptight?
What's your phone number?
She'll give it. I know Cricket Lee.
Well, I don't know if uptight is the right word. I mean, sex is intimate. These are actors.
Right.
This is a movie, and it's very easy to simulate sex. It's not hard to simulate sex. You could ask my old girlfriend. So. I don't know. In some of these foreign films, that have done that, and it was more of a part of the concept of the film rather than the story. It was the idea, and it was built around that. It's the purpose, and I'm sure some of those types of films exist here. They're not big market films. Maybe they're not big market films because we are up too uptight.
I can't recall his name, but I remember years ago there was an actor on General Hospital that used to like to perform all of his scenes just actually nude. Have you worked on sets where actors were like that they want to actually be nude for scenes that they don't have to be, but it'll work?
And I've actually been present for live set. I mean, there have been actors who have.
Okay.
I don't know if it hit. It may have been before internet, or if it hit the internet. And I remember one picture. I was a second AD, and there was a couple in a barn, and we were shooting it on a long lens, and it was me and them in the barn.
And this film, so I can put it on my Netflix queue after tonight?
Yeah, I'm not going to.
Oh, no, okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I don't know if anybody's married. I don't know what's going on. None of my beeswax.
Fair enough. Brian, what do you got for me?
Just a quick note about scheduling. I see some stuff in the chat rooms. When we talk about breaking down the film, if you see a kitchen scene 3 times in the movie, beginning, middle, and end, we didn't shoot it at different times. We shot all the kitchen scenes at the same time, ideally. And so when we talk about breaking down the schedule, that's what we're talking about. As far as another program, he's right. There's pretty much just the one main program. But if you're on a low budget, you don't have access to it, and you got a Mac, and you want something that's a really cool beginner program to kind of like idiot way walk yourself through it, there's a program called Company Move. I believe it's company-move.com, and it's a really nice kind of drag and drop introduction to it. But the caveat is that when you get into the larger integration for films, as far as like budgeting integration, it's not going to support that stuff. But one of the things this really big program does is it makes awful call sheets. The call sheet basically tells everyone on the day what they need and what they're doing. It makes awful call sheets, and what this program Company Move does is, if you don't have an experienced first AD, is it idiotically makes these great call sheets for you of everything that you do the data entry for. So that's just my little pitch for them, because that's what I use on smaller stuff.
Yeah, and also, you could do anything that either of these programs do, aside from the integration of budget information on Excel.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, you could just It ain't brain surgery.
Right.
You know?
But I'm wondering, and I'll look this up now, if there are sites for novice filmmakers, because that came up as part of a question back and forth with someone not being able to afford a first AD or something, where they can see these sample forms, like a sample schedule, so they have some sort of, model, to work off of instead of just, trying to figure it out themselves.
Sure. They're probably on the internet too.
Yeah, I would
they're
imagine.
probably on the internet. Maybe even eBay.
That's right.
You're surprised at the stuff that pops up on there.
There you go. Have you ever worked with a first-time director?
Several.
Several first time, and how does that work for you? Do you find yourself taking on a little bit more responsibility?
There's a little bit of hand-holding. It's not hand-holding. It's a calming of nerves, of sorts. They're nervous. It's a big undertaking to helm a movie, So there's a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, and of course the pressure that it comes with it. Because if it stinks, you're not going to make another one.
Right.
So, there's a trust factor that, again, that I like to let them know that I'm there for them. I'm helping you. I'm on your side. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it together. And you, me, DP, and everybody else is on your side. And we try to convey that as much as you can.
Great. Do you get involved a little bit more creatively with a first timer, or that still just depends, just like any other project?
It depends, like any other project, like any other individual. I have to be a chameleon in my job. So, there's first-time directors who come in with a strong, very strong creative impetus for the film, and don't even want to talk about it, and you have to appreciate that, and you have to accept it. I personally don't really enjoy that as much, because I really enjoy, one of the hardest things to do is to watch a director struggle with a blocking when or at least have a concept as to how to solve the problem that they're having, but they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be overwhelmed with ideas when they're trying to think through their stuff. The best first-time director is somebody who's, in my opinion, who's thinking about their project, able to listen to ideas and not dwell on them if they're not good, but appreciate them if they are. Because my opinion when it comes, if I give you 30 ideas and you take the 31st and it makes the film better, the first 30 were worthwhile.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, a synchronistic question is, someone wants to know, does Quentin Tarantino, how much responsibility does he pass on to the ADs? Or is he controlling, or does he let you do a lot, or how does that work out?
We've worked, he gave me a lot of latitude. On Jackie Brown, there was a lot of times that we would sit together, and on Kill Bill also, I'll never forget the time that, because Elle Driver was supposed to die. I think that's, if any Kill Bill fan would know that, she was supposed to die and be buried outside of Bill's trailer, and the day that she was destined to live, I remember seeing Quentin sitting over in the corner. We're watching the blocking of the fight, and everybody's like, hold on. The Chinese guys are saying this is going to happen, and then the stunt guys are saying, then we'll fly through here, and the effects guys are saying, then we'll break this chair, and Quentin's not listening to anybody. And I'm not listening to him either, because I'm just watching this dude, because he's not behaving normally. And I walk up to him and I say, "What's up, man?" And he goes, come here. And we walk back to his office. He's like, I'm thinking maybe Elle Driver shouldn't die. What do you think? Well, I don't know. What do you have in mind? And then he goes through it, and it tells me about stepping on the eye. And I said, I think that's great. Here's what we're going to have to do. Let me get the producers, and we're going to have to call it a day. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, I know, but we're going to have to call it a day because we got to rebuild some stuff. We got to do some stuff. But just the idea of, sitting there, listening him bounce that idea off me for the first time. Obviously, in this case, I had no input because it was a brilliant idea and it didn't require any input. Right. But, that's exciting. it's exciting to be a part of that.
Good question, Jay Jagatis. Hey, it's Tom. Would like to ask, which movie did you have your best experience on?
You know, they've all, not all. I think I've done a lot of movies now, and I can think of maybe 5 that I look back on and say, man, that sucked. And that's batting 950 or something like that, something crazy like that. There largely is always something great I can say about something on some movie. Either the movie's great, either the people were great, either the actors were great, either I met them, I met a wonderful person. There's always something. That's what's so wonderful about what we do. I mean, there's always something, there's always a beginning, there's always an end, and there's always something to remember that is really a pleasure.
Yeah, and you get to work with people like Quentin Tarantino over and over again if it works well.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful gift.
And the people that drag along with them,
right,
like De Niro,
absolutely.
and
that's right.
Sam Jackson,
Yeah.
and Bridget Fonda. I mean, give me a break.
Now let's talk about how one becomes a first AD. There's a Dga Training Program for that, right? Did you partake in that program?
I took the test.
Took the test.
I took the test.
How'd that go for you?
I enjoyed it. I love sitting in his classroom for 6 hours with a bunch of other lugheads taking multiple choices to whether you would rather take a fork, a spoon, or a knife camping. Basically what that test is the DGA had given, my understanding anyway, had given their top DGA ADs, it's a personality test. Aside from, can you read and can you write, which is probably the part I didn't pass. They gave the best ADs, or the biggest ADs at the time, which is several years ago, the personality test, and they were just looking for people who matched the personality of those ADs. And there's 1,000+ people who take the test annually. And they take 20 or something ridiculously small like that. And then they also, quota. They also quota it. So, I'm a white male. I don't know if you noticed. And when I took the test, the room was 75%, 80% white men.
Right.
And there was less of us that were going to.
So just so I know, in case I ever take the test, is the correct answer the knife, the fork, or the spoon?
Well, if I was to tell you what I thought the correct answer was, you'd have 2 more to choose from to get it correct.
There you go. So then you didn't go through the DGA program. So the path to becoming a first AD is what, from runner to...
Well, yeah, I interned, this all came as a surprise to me. I was a stockbroker.
Right.
Oh, wow. I just moved to California and was hanging out at the Venice Bistro drinking Moosehead, hoping never to get a job again, and saw a movie, White Man Can't Jump, came, and they built a basketball court in front of the Venice Bistro there, and I said, that looks like fun. Look at that dude. He's in shorts. And is he telling that girl on rollerblades in the bikini when to skate back and forth?
Right.
I can do that. So I thought it looked like fun. I figured I'd give it a try. I went and interned on a movie. And I interned on a movie, and, then that bunch of people said, you should hire this guy as a PA. So I PA'd on a movie. PA'd on another movie by breaking, because I went to 20 I would sit down, take the Hollywood Reporter. This is back before 9/11, so the studios were a little easier to break into. I would take the Hollywood Reporter, break it down into geographic sections, and show up at every studio, every production office that was listed in the Hollywood Reporter, 10 a day minimum, with a resume and a smile. And that's how I got my second 2 jobs, actually.
That's incredible persistence.
Every day. I did it every day. I mean, I knew how, on Paramount, I knew if I went in through the mailroom. And, I knew at Warner Brothers, if I went at lunchtime with the Taco Bell bag, just see a bunch of other Warner Brothers people with their little tags, follow them in with the Taco Bell bag. Disney was a hard one to bust into, but I finally got in there, and that's how I got Sister Act. I was able to PA on Sister Act just because the second AD on that picture had just bought a house for money he made on the stock market. And I just talked stocks for an hour while everybody else was out on a scout. And he gave me a call. Can you be in San Francisco 6:30 on Monday morning? He called me on Friday night. I said, yeah, I'll be there. I didn't know
great.
anybody in San Francisco.
Yeah, and now as time goes by, it just gets more and more competitive, and that's the kind of persistence people need to make it in this business. Brian, what do you got for me?
I guess I want to just pick your brain for like 5 hours about stuff, because when I work on stuff, I'm on very low budget things, and sometimes I run into directors. Normally, what I have to do is they have this shot list that is probably like, it's pages and pages long for all the cool things they want to do, and that they can't afford the equipment for, and they can't afford the 2 weeks to really shoot that. And the first thing I have to do is try to convince them, well, what we really need is to have less of a shot list. Lower the amount of things you want to do, because we don't have the time to do it. I know we don't. What do you do when you have a stubborn director that they have to get this shot, and they're not really willing to budge as far as what their creative vision is compared to what the budget really is?
Well, that's certainly where a producer will help you.
Yes.
I mean, they will learn very quickly when you have your first 30 shots and the 40th shot on the list is the most important, and you don't have a scene that's complete. They'll learn the hard way. I mean, you have to, filmmaking is a business. You have to behave responsibly. That's the bottom line. And it's, if you have to convince that person, then you deserve a raise. Because the people that are hired to be responsible should be responsible, and you're simply there to help them understand what is within the realm of responsibility.
Well, speaking of behaving responsibly, a lot of people out there, especially net-savvy people, are familiar with the YouTube video of David O. Russell, Lily Tomlin from the I Heart Huckabee set, and how crazy out of control, and the fight and the cursing and the screaming between director and star actress. Is that more common than people would think? Is that an isolated incident? And if something like that happens on a set of yours, how do you handle it, and are you the one to handle it?
Hey, it just happened today on Crank. No. I've never seen it to that level. That was certainly exciting. I really enjoyed watching it just because I wasn't there. But you can sense when there's certainly, I can't tell if the third hammer and the wardrobe supervisor are about to go at it, because I'm not watching them for that. I expect them to behave reasonably as well. But sometimes you get the people who are, up there, who have a difference of opinion, and it's going to affect the movie. And when you see that happening, obviously your first responsibility is to the director. So the thing to do is to clear it out. Just get everybody out so it can be worked out on the set without the people on the set, because that's the environment that has to be worked out in sometimes. I've never seen it get to that level, and that's unfortunate that it would.
Have you ever had to fire someone on set?
Not in many. It can't be that many.
That's right. That's right. Like, there's a lot of menus we're getting here. Yeah.
Not in a long time. I remember an industrial video several years ago. I fired a guy because he was just unpleasant, and unpleasant to many of the people around. Disrespect is really something that I just can't tolerate. If you don't respect the people you're working with, just please go do something else. Go find some people who don't deserve respect and disrespect them and work with them. But these people are working hard, and they deserve respect.
So you're making sure, in addition to creating the schedule, making sure the days are met, you're also kind of responsible for making sure everyone does their job when they're supposed to, and you're kind of like the set diplomat to make sure if there's any conflicts that they don't bubble over?
No, they're there to make sure they do their job when they're supposed to. Right. I'm just there to let them know when their job needs to be completed. We're going to, they're all, the people that I work with and anybody who makes a film, everybody wants to do a great job. There's nobody who's there, oh man, I'm going to fuck this up. There's nobody there who's trying to sabotage anything. Everybody who is working on a film, at least it's been my experience, really is there because they want to do something wonderful. You allow them to do that, and you help them to do that. This is when we're going to do it. What do you need to get it done? How do I help you? And that's what it does. So it's not telling them you need to have it here. This is it's like, What do you need to get it done? How am I going to help you?
I love that. It's very proactive.
Yeah.
It's great. C4, How You Can would like to ask, what was the most frustrating situation that you had to deal with, and what creative solution did you come up with?
I think I kind of mentioned it before. It's watching a director struggle. Watching a director struggle is very frustrating. When they are struggling with an actor's performance, it's frustrating. When they're struggling with a director of photography, it's frustrating. I just try to help them. I try to, if they're not communicating with the actor in a way that the actor is responding to, I will ask them if I can try. And sometimes it works. If they're not communicating with the director of photography, I will sit in on every single one of the conversations that they have and understand where the schism happens. Because there are a lot of times, you get two very creative, two highly energetic people with two separate ideas, and even though one is saying something and the other says yes, 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 they didn't listen to a word that they said. So you just have to go back. It's like dealing with somebody who's speaking a different language. Okay, well, yes to what? What say it back. What it is that's going to happen. Yeah. What? Just say back what it is you want to do. Just to make sure that communication happens. You just bridge the gap.
That was so real. I was very close to saying, you're saying say it back, say what you want to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to help you too, Jeff. If there's anything you need, let me know.
I think it was Eli Roth, director, who said that, being a director, maybe this applies to what you do, I'll kind of make it that way, is not about, executing a vision, it's about putting out fires. So what has been like one of your craziest or longest days on set where like a bunch of things were going wrong and you had to put out fires in order to make things happen?
That's a toughie. They have, fires come and fires go, but the way that I'm grateful that it's hard for me to think of it, because part of my job is to see the smoke before the fire. So it's a lot easier to get out a fire when it's just smoking. And you just get it out and you just roll right over it. So getting rid of all the smoke, getting rid of the embers allows you not to be fires. So I really, there's always something that's going on. There's always something that comes up. Today the sun wasn't out and that was a pain. There's nothing you can do about it. You roll with it. You figure it out. We talked about it yesterday. Where are places we can get big lights inside of a major sports arena that's open? What are we allowed to do? What is his potential solutions? How do we work around it? And, we come up with ideas, and we thought about it the day before. We weren't there that morning saying, oh, gee whiz, look at that. The sun's not out.
Right. So one of the ways to prevent smoke from becoming fire is to have,
to smell the smoke.
Smell the smoke and have a B, a C, and a D, all these backup plans.
Yeah.
Okay.
And develop them, because sometimes, again, B is better than A.
Right.
Sometimes it works out that way.
Hey, it's Tom would like to ask, on working with both Scarlett Johansson and Jessica Biel, was it as fantastic as it should be? Please say that it was.
Yes.
Very good. Any experiences that you can recall from it?
Well, no. I mean, they're just, both of them are great. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're both smart, beautiful, and talented women. I mean, what could be wrong?
Right, sure.
What could be wrong? I had the opportunity to work with Scarlett when she was 16 and when she was 23 or 21 on Bobby Long, the John Travolta picture in New Orleans, which was a great picture also because, as far as I can tell, that's one of the last pictures shot in New Orleans that's about New Orleans in New Orleans before Katrina. So it's really a gem that should be examined, historically now, because a lot of it was shot in the Ninth Ward, and that's all gone.
A couple of quick questions before we let you get out of here. Fill in the sentence.
Is he going to let me go too?
He won't. He's going to pick your brain for a couple hours after this. Fill in the sentence for me. To be a great first AD, you have to
care.
Cool. So to care about all the departments, care about the people you're working with.
Yeah, care about the project.
Okay, wonderful. What is your favorite set?
To be a great first AD.
To be a great first AD. What is your favorite set term speak?
One more because we love to make movies. Keith Adams said that. That's and Quentin told me he's stealing it.
Oh, yeah.
So now you got it here. That was mine.
That's funny. That's great. Actually, you know what? There's one more quick IM we'll get to from Miss Cricketley. What do you think of Irreversible?
What is it? The jacket?
The concept of reversible jackets. Brian, any help?
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a movie. Maybe we'll get it later then.
Maybe we'll.
I haven't seen
Brian,
it.
any last?
I saw Nim's Island this weekend. If it's the only category I seem to get every year for all of the Academy Awards is what I can take Josephine, my 6-year-old daughter, to.
There you go.
So Nim's Island. It was great.
I guess my last question is if there's anyone, our hope is that there's would-be filmmakers watching, is not for people that want to be a first AD, but for other things. I guess when I found, particularly when you're on a small set, what I found was if anything goes wrong, for some reason it was my fault. And you try to think of everything. Like you said, the first and foremost, you're trying to avoid the fires from starting in the first place. But there's so many departments and there's so many things to do. You kind of have to count on the people doing their job and the director and everyone who needs what they need having that worked out. And of course, I want to know everything. I want to think of every possible contingency. But to any advice for people that are not the first AD on if he hasn't checked in with you about something, or if there's something that you need that you don't think has been addressed, what could they do to avoid the problems themselves? Because there are so many things to deal with on an indie film. It's really hard to make sure every last little paperclip is accounted for.
Well, I'll just go to a cliche because that's what my grandmother would do. Fool me once, shame on. What is shame on you?
Right.
Fool me twice, shame on me. So you have to, if you allow it to get in your way the second time, it's because you have not checked. You allow them to do their job the first time, it didn't work out. The second time, you're going to be asking them a lot of questions, and in an effort to help them.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Crank 2.
Yeah, you should. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and I appreciate you so much for coming on. It was really nice talking to you.
No, happy to be here. It was great.
And that's going to do it for this week. We will be back 1 week. And don't forget, June 4th, Net Neutrality, Patrick Ferrone, president of the WGA West.
Huh?